The entire city of Crestwood was laughing at my family's expense. My father looked like he was about to have a coronary right there in the front pew. Me? I wasn't worried. In fact, I kind of wanted to laugh. Because I'd woken up inside this novel 3 days ago, and I knew the real show was just getting started. And that's when she walked toward me. The maid of honor. The girl who was supposed to be nothing more than a background character, a footnote in the story. Her face was flushed, but her voice, though quiet, was steady. Are you still in need of a bride? The music at the wedding reception screeched to a halt. The officiant, microphone in hand, had beads of sweat on his forehead brighter than the diamonds on the guest's fingers. His mouth opened and closed like a fish, but no words came out. Below the stage, the whispers of 1,000 guests merged into a low, ominous hum. Did Ashley Vance really just run off with some broke nobody? The Hayes family is going to be a complete laughingstock. I feel bad for Connor Hayes. Heard he simped for her for 3 solid years. My father, Robert Hayes, chairman of the Hayes Corporation, saw his face cycle from pale white to a furious, blotchy purple. He clutched his chest, swaying on his feet. His executive assistant scrambled to steady him, his other hand fumbling for the bottle of nitro pills in his pocket. And me, the punchline to the city's biggest joke, stood at the end of the aisle, blinded by the spotlights. But I wasn't panicking. I actually found it kind of funny. My name is Connor Hayes. 3 days ago, I was just a corporate drone, grinding away my life in a cubicle. A car crash changed all that, and I woke up inside this trashy romance novel I'd been reading. In the book, I'm the pathetic, simping side character who shares my name. My one and only purpose is to be publicly humiliated today, jilted at the altar by the female lead, Ashley Vance, making me the first stepping stone for the male lead, Leo Roth, and his epic glow-up. According to the original plot, this humiliation would drive me insane. I'd use my family's power to take revenge on the happy couple, only to be crushed by the male lead's plot armor. The Hayes Corporation would go bankrupt, and I'd end up dead in a ditch. Yeah, no thanks. My only goal was to coast. This new life was a dream start. Handsome, wealthy, powerful family. The only flaw was the original Connor's baffling decision to be a total simp. Now Ashley was gone. The plot had hit its major turning point. All I had to do was go with the flow, cancel the wedding, and then spend the rest of my life enjoying the family fortune. What could be better? Just as I was about to open my mouth and declare this whole circus over, a figure stepped out from the line of bridesmaids. She wore a lavender bridesmaid dress, her dark hair falling in soft waves. Her skin seemed to glow under the stage lights. It was Claire Sterling, Ashley's best friend, the background character with maybe 3 lines in the entire novel. The book's only description of her was, Ashley's quiet, pretty friend. Right now, that quiet, pretty friend was walking straight toward me. Every eye in the hall swiveled to her. She stopped right in front of me. I could see her hands were clenched into tight fists, her knuckles white from the strain, betraying her nervousness. She looked up, and her clear, beautiful eyes were filled with anxiety and shyness, but beneath it all was a spark of fierce, do-or-die determination. She took a deep breath, her cheeks turning crimson. Her voice wasn't loud, but in the dead silent chapel, it carried perfectly. Connor, are you still in need of a bride? Boom. The hall erupted. My father was so shocked he forgot to breathe. Ashley's parents looked like they'd just swallowed poison. The expressions on the guests' faces morphed from detached amusement to utter shock, then to pure, unadulterated disbelief. I stared at Claire Sterling, completely stunned myself. This wasn't in the book. The gears of the plot had just slipped, grinding in a direction I never saw coming. Seeing my lack of response, the light in Claire's eyes dimmed. She bit her lower lip, and her voice trembled with a hint of hurt. Is that a no? I'm sorry, Her eyes instantly welled up, and it looked like she was about to burst into tears. Something in my chest clenched. Damn it. I have a real weakness for beautiful women crying. Besides, marrying this beautiful background character seemed a hell of a lot more interesting than just coasting alone. At the very least, it would keep my old man from actually having that heart attack. And it would make the Vance family and everyone else here to watch the train wreck pick their jaws up off the floor. Okay. A slow smile spread across my face as I extended my hand to her. My bride, right this way. Claire's head snapped up, her eyes wide with disbelief. I took her cool hand in mine, turned to face the petrified audience, and picked up the microphone the officiant had dropped. My voice was steady and clear. Ladies and gentlemen, a slight change of plans. My bride is a little shy and decided to play a last-minute game of hide-and-seek with me. I held up my hand, now tightly clasped with Claire's, the grin on my face widening. Allow me to reintroduce you. This is Claire Sterling, and she is the only woman I have ever wanted to marry. The wedding is back on. Chapter 2. My words landed in a pool of dead silence. Everyone stared at me like I'd completely lost my mind. My father, Robert Hayes, stood with his mouth agape, the nitro pills forgotten in his hand. Ashley's father, Mr. Vance, turned the color of a ripe tomato, pointing a trembling finger at me, sputtering, You. Claire's parents, meanwhile, just looked bewildered, clearly having no idea what was going on. I couldn't be bothered with their reactions. I kept hold of Claire's hand and, under the shocked gazes of everyone present, walked her down the rest of the aisle. Her palm was sweaty, her body a little stiff, but she never pulled away. She just kept her head down and let me lead her, exchanging rings, saying the vows, the kiss. The rest of the ceremony was a blur. When I leaned in and placed a symbolic kiss on her forehead, I could feel her long eyelashes flutter against my lips like butterfly wings. Cute. The wedding ended in a chaotic rush as guests departed, their heads swimming with enough gossip to last a year. I could already see the headlines. Hayes heir jilted, Mary's bridesmaid in shocking twist. Back at the Hayes estate, my father finally found his voice. Connor, on your knees now. Robert's roar echoed through the marble foyer. He was brandishing a decorative cane he'd grabbed from the hall stand, looking like he was ready to use it. I calmly guided Claire to the living room sofa and poured her a glass of water. Dad, calm down. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Robert's mustache was practically vibrating with rage. Ashley Vance left you at the altar. The Hayes family name is Mud, and you just grabbed the first girl you saw and married her. Are you trying to kill me? Claire flinched at his shouting. Mr. Hayes, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. It's not your fault. I cut in, turning to my father. Dad, Ashley ran out. She was in the wrong. If the Hayes family begged her to come back, that would be humiliating. But now, I'm married to Claire. The wedding is complete. The purpose of the alliance between our families is still achieved. And the Sterling family's influence is just as deep as the Vances, if not deeper. I said it casually, but it stopped Robert in his tracks. He'd been so fixated on the alliance with Vance Industries that he'd forgotten. The Sterling family's pedigree was, in many circles, even more respected than the Vances. Claire's father was a world-renowned scientist, her mother a celebrated artist. Theirs was old money, quiet and deep, not flashy and loud. These were all background details I'd absorbed when I first read the book. Robert fell silent, studying Claire with a complicated expression. I was done arguing. I pulled Claire to her feet. We're tired. We're heading upstairs. As for the company, have Mark send me the quarterly reports tomorrow. Without a backward glance, I led her up the grand staircase. I left my father in the living room, staring at his cane, contemplating the meaning of life. The atmosphere in a master suite was suddenly awkward. Claire stood stiffly by the door, unsure of what to do with her hands. About today. Thank you, she said softly. For what? I asked, walking over to the minibar and pouring myself a glass of whiskey. For making you the biggest joke in Crestwood? No, she said, shaking her head quickly. Thank you for being willing to marry me. I swirled the ice in my glass and turned to face her. Give me a reason. What? Why what? Why did you step forward like that? I held her gaze. And don't tell me it was to save my family's reputation, or because you felt sorry for me. My stare made her blush. She looked down, fiddling with her fingers, her voice barely a whisper. Because I've had a crush on you for a long time. I raised an eyebrow, genuinely surprised. The Connor in the book was a worthless simp who did nothing but chase Ashley. What was there to like? Since when? Sophomore year of college. At the university track meet, you were in the 5,000-meter race. It was a really hot day, and you got heat stroke halfway through. Everyone was crowded around Leo Roth, who won first place. But I saw you, hiding in a corner, giving half of your university-issued water bottle to the janitor who was sweeping nearby. She looked up at me, her eyes shining. From that moment on, I knew you weren't like what everyone said. I was floored. That actually happened? The original owner of this body did something decent? So, the simp wasn't a complete lost cause after all. Looking into her clear, sincere eyes, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe marrying her really was a good choice. All right, it's late. Go take a shower, I said, breaking the spell and gesturing toward the bathroom. Get some rest. She nodded with a quiet, hum, and scurried into the bathroom like a startled rabbit. Listening to the sound of the running water, I stepped out onto the balcony and made a call. Hello, Mark. Sir, are you okay? I heard. I'm fine, I interrupted. I need you to run a full background check on a man named Leo Roth and that green energy project he and Ashley Vance are working on. I want all the data on my desk by morning. Also, leak a story that my new bride and I are taking a 1-month honeymoon, effective immediately. All company business will be handled by you. Mark was silent for a moment on the other end. Then his voice returned, filled with an almost religious reverence. Sir, that's brilliant. A classic feint. You let them think you're distracted while we prepare the real attack. Don't you worry. I'll handle everything perfectly. I won't let a single thing disturb you and Mrs. Hayes on your honeymoon. I just stood there. I literally just wanted to chill for a month. Why was everyone on my staff so extra? Hashtag chapter 3 the next day, I slept in. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, warm and pleasant. The spot next to me in bed was empty, but it still held a trace of warmth and the faint, clean scent of her shampoo. I stretched, feeling utterly content. No alarm clock, no morning commute, no boss to answer to. This was the life. I leisurely got out of bed, showered, and changed into a comfortable set of lounge clothes. When I went downstairs, Claire was in the kitchen, wearing an apron, humming softly to herself. The dining table was already set with a perfect breakfast. The toast was golden brown, the eggs were cooked perfectly sunny side up, and a glass of warm milk sat next to the plate. You're awake. She heard me and turned, a smile gracing her lips, revealing 2 faint dimples. Come eat. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I just made a little of everything. I walked over and pulled out a chair. Staring at the beautiful breakfast spread, I felt a strange sense of dislocation. In my past life, breakfast was a greasy pastry grab from a street cart. You made this. I did. She nodded a little shyly. I'm not the best cook, so I hope it's okay. I took a bite of the toast. Crispy on the outside, soft on the inside, with the perfect amount of butter. It's delicious, I said, and I meant it. Her eyes lit up like a kid who'd just gotten a gold star. She sat down across from me, happily sipping her milk. The sunlight fell on her, casting a soft, golden glow around her. Long hair, a simple white dress, a clean smile. Yep, an actual angel. A whole lot easier on the eyes than that ice queen, Ashley. Oh, right, she said, as if suddenly remembering something. Mark called earlier. He said the company's stock hit the limit up today. He wanted me to tell you. Okay, I said, taking a sip of milk, my reaction mild. Claire blinked, confused. You're not happy? The stock hit the daily trading limit. What's there to be happy about? I put down my glass and wiped my mouth. Standard operating procedure. Claire just stared at me. She probably thought I was bragging. I didn't bother explaining. My executive team was composed entirely of Type A overachievers. The more nonchalant and detached I acted, the more they seemed to think I was playing 4D chess, which only motivated them to work harder, terrified that poor performance might interrupt my master plan of doing absolutely nothing. Just then my phone rang. The screen lit up with a name, Ashley. Speak of the devil. I put it on speaker and tossed the phone onto the table. Connor, what is the meaning of this? Ashley's cold, furious voice crackled through the speaker. The meaning of what? I asked lazily. Why did you marry Claire Sterling? Are you trying to get back at me? Is this your way of humiliating me? I almost laughed out loud. This woman's ego was truly something else. Ms. Vance, I believe we need to establish a few things. First, you and I are done. Second, who I marry is my business. And third, please don't project your pathetic little schemes onto me. I'm not that petty. Claire looked at me nervously, her hands twisting the hem of her dress. I gave her a reassuring smile, motioning for her to keep eating. Ashley was speechless on the other end, her breathing growing heavy with rage. Connor, don't get cocky. You think marrying her makes you a winner? You're nothing but a useless playboy. Without my family, the Hayes Corporation would be finished. Let's see how you support her then. Oh, really? I chuckled. Well, don't you worry your pretty little head about it. The news that I simply didn't get out of bed this morning was enough to send our stock soaring. Can you imagine what would happen if I actually decided to show up to the office one day? The market would probably explode. You're shameless. Thank you for the compliment. Connor, you just wait. Leo's project is about to get full funding. When it does, I'll make you come crawling back to me on your knees. With that, she slammed the phone down. Peace and quiet at last. I looked across the table at Claire. She was staring at me with wide eyes and a slightly open mouth, a look of pure shock on her face. That was kind of hot, she whispered. You think so? I leaned closer, lowering my voice. Shouldn't I get some kind of reward for that? Her face instantly turned beet red, like a ripe tomato. Oh, a reward. I pointed to my cheek. She hesitated for a second, then quickly leaned in and gave me a light, fleeting peck on the cheek. Soft, warm, and tasted faintly of sweet milk. Yeah, I could get used to rewards like that. Hashtag chapter 4 for the next few days. I lived the life I'd always dreamed of. I'd wake up without an alarm, then spend the day with Claire, curled up on the sofa, watching old movies or swimming laps in the backyard pool. Claire, it turned out, was full of surprises. She could play the piano, she could paint, and she even made her own artisanal fruit cordials that were dangerously good. Most importantly, she was incredibly thoughtful, taking care of a domestic disaster like me with effortless grace. She found out I liked spicy food and immediately started researching Cajun recipes, making me a different dish every day. She'd occasionally get a little teary-eyed from the Kian herself, but seeing me enjoy the meal made her smile brighter than anyone. When I worked out, she'd be there with a towel and a water bottle. Then, when she thought I wasn't looking, she'd blush and quickly poke one of my abs, looking as pleased as a cat that had stolen a fish. My heart, I realized, was slowly but surely being filled by this gentle, adorable girl. One afternoon, as we were watching a classic film noir, my phone rang again. It was Mark. Sir, we got a bite. Mark's voice was buzzing with excitement. Go on. Ashley Vance and Leo Roth's green energy project just had its funding pulled. To fast-track their development, they embezzled the down payment from a publicly traded company. Now that company is demanding immediate repayment, or they're pressing charges for commercial fraud. A small smile played on my lips. Everything was going according to plan. In the original novel, the main character's company was built on this project. But their success was fueled by a series of shady, under-the-table deals, including misappropriating funds. In the book, the whole thing was swept under the rug because my character's family went bankrupt, so there was no one left to press the issue. But now, I had no intention of being their stepping stone. That public company, Apex Industries, we're the majority shareholder, aren't we? I asked. Yes, sir. An acquisition you made 3 years ago. They don't even know it's us. Mark's tone was approaching hero worship. Sir, your foresight is truly astounding. A strategic masterpiece. I sighed. Okay, Mark, that's enough. Just follow protocol. If they can't pay, you sue. If assets need to be seized, you seize them. Remember, we are law-abiding citizens. Understood, sir. After hanging up, Claire asked curiously, did something happen? Nothing important. Just someone about to go bankrupt, I said, ruffling her hair. Is the movie boring you? No, it's great, she said, then shook her head. I feel bad for the main character. In the movie, the protagonist was being framed by the villain, abandoned by everyone he knew. You silly girl. I pulled her into my arms. It's just a movie. In the real world, good people don't get punished. She snuggled into my chest, finding a comfortable spot, and hummed in agreement. The sun was shining. A beautiful woman was in my arms. This was the life. As for Ashley and Leo, let them find out just how resilient their true love is in the face of financial ruin. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office at Vance Industries, Ashley stared at the legal notice in her hand, her face ashen. How could this happen? Why would Apex Industries suddenly sue us? She murmured, unable to process the reality of the situation. Leo stood beside her, his expression just as grim. Ashley, don't worry. I'll go talk to them. There must be some kind of mistake. A mistake. Ashley's head snapped up, her eyes sharp. Leo, be honest with me. Did you, or did you not, use that money? Leo's eyes darted away. I was just borrowing it temporarily. As soon as we secure our first round of funding, I'll pay it all back. Temporarily borrow? Ashley let out a bitter laugh. That was $50 million. How are you going to pay that back? With your love? Ashley, how can you say that? Everything I do is for our future. Our future? Ashley pointed toward the door. Our future is getting dragged into court and going to prison together. It was the first major fight they'd ever had. It ended with Leo storming out and slamming the door. Ashley was left alone in the silent office. She sank into her chair, her mind a chaotic mess. Why? Why had everything started going wrong the moment she left Connor? She suddenly remembered what Connor had said on the phone. The news that I simply didn't get out of bed this morning was enough to send our stock soaring. She'd thought it was a joke at the time, but over the past few days, a morbid curiosity had led her to check the Hayes Corporation stock prices. The trending hashtag Connor didn't get out of bed today, had actually pushed the company's stock to a new high. How could a useless trust fund kid have that kind of influence? A huge, unsettling question began to form in Ashley's mind, sharp as a needle. Connor Hayes. Who exactly was he? Chapter 5 Crestwood's annual charity gala was the social event of the season, a magnet for the city's elite. Frankly, I didn't want to go. These events were stuffy, boring, and a complete waste of time I could have spent at home watching TV with my wife. But my father had called, practically in tears, threatening to jump off the roof of the Hayes Corporation building if I didn't show up. So, with a heavy sigh, I put on a tux, and Claire and I made our appearance. I was in a custom tuxedo, while Claire wore a stunning moon-white gown, its hem dotted with tiny, glittering diamonds that looked like a captured galaxy. The moment she entered, she became the center of attention. Elegant, graceful, with an ethereal air about her. Who is that? She's gorgeous. I think that's Connor Hayes' new wife, Claire Sterling. Wow, Connor Hayes really upgraded. She's 1,000 times better than that ice queen, Ashley Vance. Listening to the murmurs around us, I couldn't stop smiling. My wife. Of course she was the best. Claire was a little overwhelmed by all the attention, her hand tightening on my arm. Don't worry, I've got you, I whispered in her ear. She nodded, took a deep breath, and straightened her shoulders. We had just found a quiet table when two unwelcome guests appeared before us. Ashley Vance and Leo Roth. They both looked haggard. Ashley's face was caked in heavy makeup, but it couldn't hide the exhaustion and anxiety in her eyes. Leo was trying to project confidence, but the panic flickering in his gaze gave him away. It seemed that $50 million hole was causing them some serious problems. Connor, Ashley said, her voice strained. I glanced up at her for a second before turning my attention back to the dessert table, picking up a slice of matcha mousse that I knew Claire loved. Claire, try this. Thank you, Claire said softly, taking the small plate. Our casual intimacy was like a dagger to Ashley. She saw red. She clenched her fists, forcing down her anger. Connor, I need to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you, I said, wiping my mouth with a napkin, my tone flat. You. Ashley choked on her anger. Leo couldn't stand it anymore. He stepped forward, pointing a finger at me. Connor, don't take it too far. Ashley was, at least. At least what? I looked at him coldly. My runaway fiancée, or your current, financially strapped girlfriend? My words shut him up instantly, his face turning a deep shade of red. Connor. Ashley took a deep breath, apparently having made a difficult decision. She swallowed her pride. I know Apex Industries is owned by your family. Please, I'm begging you, just give us a little more time. As soon as our project gets funded, we'll pay back the $50 million. Every single cent. Oh, so she was already begging? That was faster than I expected. I smiled, picking up a glass of champagne and swirling it gently. Ms. Vance, you seem to be confused about a few things. First, business is about contracts and the law, not favors. Second, even if we were talking favors, why on earth would I do one for you? I paused, my gaze shifting to Leo, who stood beside her. My smile deepened. Help you out? So you can take my money and ride off into the sunset with your one true love? Do I look like that big of a person to you?" Every word was a precision strike. The color drained from Ashley's face. Leo, standing next to her, was practically steaming with shame and fury, wishing the ground would swallow him whole. The surrounding guests had their ears perked, their faces alight with the thrill of high society drama. Connor, Leo, his pride shattered, lunged forward, ready to throw a punch. Before I could even move, a large figure stepped in front of me. It was my assistant, Mark Jenkins. I hadn't even seen him approach. He stood like a brick wall, shielding me completely. "Mr. Roth, I suggest you control yourself," Mark said, his face impassive. "Who the hell are you? Get out of my way," Leo yelled. Mark didn't budge. He just stared at Leo, his voice low and cold. "If you take one more step, I guarantee you'll be hearing from every lawyer in Crestwood by morning." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried an authority that couldn't be questioned. Leo's rage deflated like a pop balloon. He might not fear Connor Hayes, the playboy, but he absolutely feared the legal department of the Hayes Corporation. Ashley watched the scene unfold, completely stunned. The Connor she remembered was always alone, pathetically trailing behind her. He never had people like this around him. When did he get a subordinate who was so loyal, so imposing? She looked at me, the man she had once despised with every fiber of her being. He was just sitting there, calmly sipping his champagne, watching her and Leo's humiliation with an expression that wasn't triumphant, but detached, indifferent, as if he were watching two insignificant ants. A terrifying, unprecedented thought gripped Ashley's heart. It was as if she had never really known Connor at all. Hashtag, 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 Chapter 6. The main event of the evening was the charity auction. The host presented one lavish item after another, and the city's wealthiest bid eagerly. I was bored out of my mind, just wanted to go home. Claire, however, was fascinated. Her eyes lit up when they brought out a stunning necklace, a piece called the Stardust, designed by the famous jeweler Luna. "It's beautiful," she whispered in awe. I glanced at the necklace. It was undeniably exquisite. A platinum chain set with sapphires and diamonds of varying sizes, glittering under the lights like a miniature Milky Way. "You like it?" I asked. She immediately shook her head. No, it's way too expensive." The bidding started at $300,000. The moment the host announced the price, Ashley raised her paddle. $500,000. She shot a defiant look in my direction, as if trying to reclaim some of her lost dignity through a show of wealth. All eyes turned to her. "Ms. Vance is certainly generous. Looks like that business with Apex isn't affecting her cash flow." Leo straightened his back, a flicker of his old confidence returning. I just smiled and remained still. "You're not going to bid?" Claire asked me in a small voice, a hint of disappointment in her tone. "What's the rush? Let's let things play out a bit." Before long, the price had climbed to $1 million. Ashley, her jaw tight, raised her paddle again. $1,100,000. This was clearly pushing her financial limits. The auctioneer began the final countdown. 1.1 million going once. 1.1 million going twice. Just as his gavel was about to fall, I leisurely raised my paddle. 5 million. I stated the number calmly. The entire hall fell silent. Everyone stared at me as if I had grown a second head. Jumping from 1.1 million to 5 million? Was he buying a necklace or just setting money on fire for fun? The blood drained from Ashley's face. She stared at me, her eyes filled with a toxic mix of humiliation and disbelief. The auctioneer was stunned. When he finally recovered, his voice trembled. $5 million. We have $5 million for Mr. Hayes. Do I hear any higher bids? Of course he didn't. The gavel came down. The necklace was mine. I swiped my card, and under the intense gaze of the entire room, I walked onto the stage and took the velvet box from the attendant. Then I walked back down and stopped directly in front of Claire. While everyone watched in a state of shock, envy, and disbelief, I dropped to one knee and opened the box. "For you." The brilliant starlight of the necklace illuminated Claire's stunned face. I can't accept this. It's too much," she stammered. "It's not," I said, looking up at her, my eyes soft. "In my eyes, you deserve the best of everything." I meant every word. Claire's eyes reddened, tears welling up. "Silly girl, what are you crying for?" I stood up and personally fastened the necklace around her neck. The cool metal touched her warm skin. The brilliant galaxy of gems seemed to have found its rightful owner, looking more beautiful than I could have imagined. "It's perfect," I said sincerely. "Is the necklace perfect, or am I?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. "You're 1,000 times more perfect than the necklace." She broke into a tearful smile. The society women around us could no longer contain their hushed squeals. "Oh my God, that is the sweetest thing I've ever seen. A $5 million necklace, just like that? That's what I call a fairy tale romance." "I'm not jealous. You're jealous." "Okay, I'm jealous." Across the room, Ashley and Leo had become the evening's biggest losers. Ashley's face was as white as a sheet, her body trembling. She had tried to humiliate me with money, only to have me humiliate her back 10 times harder, and in front of all of Crestwood's high society. There was no comeback from a public takedown that brutal. Leo's face was a mask of fury. He grabbed Ashley's arm and all but dragged her out of the ballroom. I watched them retreat, their figures slumped in defeat, but I felt no sense of victory. My eyes and my world were focused on one person, the girl in front of me, who was now smiling like a child, wearing a galaxy around her neck. Maybe getting dropped into this book wasn't so bad after all. At least, it led me to her. ####, Chapter 7 after the charity gala. Our life returned to its peaceful, sweet rhythm. Claire only wore the $5 million necklace that one night. As soon as we got home, she carefully locked it away in the safe, treating it like a precious artifact. I teased her for being a little miser, but she just blushed and said, "It's not about the money. It was the first gift you ever gave me." All right, I'll admit it. That line got me. Meanwhile, life for Ashley and Leo was anything but peaceful. The lawsuit from Apex Industries was just the first domino to fall. A flood of negative press followed. Shocker, Leo Roth's green energy project accused of IP theft. Vance Industries in crisis as stock plummets. From power couple to debt-ridden duo. Can true love survive bankruptcy? The darlings of the business world, once praised by the media, were now being dragged through the mud. Rumor had it they were selling off their penthouses and luxury cars to raise cash. Ashley even swallowed her pride and went to all her friends for loans, but it was a classic case of rats fleeing a sinking ship. Her so-called besties were now avoiding her calls. One day, I was lounging by the pool when Claire came out with a plate of sliced fruit. "It's such a beautiful day," she said, sitting beside me and holding a piece of watermelon to my lips. I took a bite. It was cold, sweet, and perfect. "By the way," she said suddenly, "my mom called today." "Oh, and what did the esteemed mother-in-law have to say?" she asked when we were coming over for dinner. Claire's face turned pink as she said it. It hit me then that, according to custom, we were overdue for a formal visit to her parents. "Let's go the day after tomorrow," I decided on the spot. "Tell your parents we're coming. I'll prepare some gifts. You don't have to get anything extravagant." "Of course I do." I sat up, feigning seriousness. "First impressions are everything. Your husband may not have much, but he has money." Claire giggled at my antics. 2 days later, I drove us to her parents' house in my most understated car, a Volkswagen Phaeton. The Sterlings lived in a quiet, gated community with heavy security. Her father, Dr. Sterling, was one of the country's top physicists. He wore glasses and had a scholarly air about him that was both gentle and intimidating. Her mother, Mrs. Sterling, was an elegant artist who looked so youthful that she and Claire could have passed for sisters. Their expressions upon seeing me were complicated. Clearly, the idea of their daughter impulsively marrying a notorious playboy didn't sit well with them. I presented the gifts I had prepared. For my father-in-law, a signed, first-edition copy of the Feynman Lectures on Physics, which I'd had an associate acquire at a high-end auction in London. For my mother-in-law, a set of antique Japanese sumi-e brushes, rumored to have belonged to a master from the Edo period. Neither gift was outrageously expensive, but they were rare, thoughtful, and perfectly tailored to their passions. As I'd hoped, Dr. Sterling's eyes went wide when he saw the book. He immediately put on his reading glasses and began flipping through the pages, completely engrossed. Mrs. Sterling was equally delighted with the brushes, holding Claire's hand and saying, "He's so thoughtful, dear." so very thoughtful. The ice was broken. Their attitude toward me thawed considerably. Over dinner, my father-in-law finally asked his first real question. "Connor, I hear you majored in finance in college?" "Yes, sir," I answered respectfully. "Then what are your thoughts on the recent market volatility and the circuit breakers that were tripped last quarter?" And there it was, the father-in-law test. I put down my chopsticks, thought for a moment, and began. I believe that while the triggers appeared to be a black swan event, they were actually the inevitable result of a long-term global economic bubble. In the short term, the market will continue its panic selling, but high-quality tech and biotech stocks will see a strong rebound after hitting bottom. In my opinion, now is the perfect time to buy the dip. I spoke at length, moving from macroeconomic analysis to specific stock picks, my arguments clear and logical. The expression on Dr. Sterling's face shifted from scrutiny to surprise and finally to genuine appreciation. He nodded repeatedly, eventually putting down his own chopsticks and sighing. "The young generation will surpass us in time. Connor, your insights are sharper than those of the economic advisors at the university." My mother-in-law was beaming. "Claire is a lucky girl to have found you." Beside me, Claire was puffed up with pride, her eyes sparkling as she looked at me, as if to say, "See, this is the man I chose. He's brilliant." The rest of the dinner was a resounding success. I had completely overturned their initial impression of me. On the way home, Claire rested her head on my shoulder. "Connor, thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For letting my parents see how wonderful you really are." I smiled and used my free hand to stroke her hair. "Silly girl. I was always this wonderful. They just didn't know it yet. Just like so many people in this world. They only see what they want to see and never bother to look beneath the surface." ####Chapter 8. Not long after our visit to the Sterlings, I got another call from Mark. "Sir, Ashley Vance is at the office. She's demanding to see you." "Not interested," I said. "She says, if you refuse to see her, she's going to jump off the roof." I frowned. Did this woman's playbook only consist of threats and melodrama? "Let her jump," I said coldly, "and make sure the legal team is ready. We'll sue her estate for disrupting business operations and for the cost of replacing any landscaping she might damage on the way down." "Sir, you're getting colder by the day," Mark remarked. "I have to say I'm impressed." I hung up and went back to building a complex Lego set with Claire. An hour later, Mark called again. "Sir, she didn't jump. I figured. But she's kneeling in the main lobby and refusing to leave. She says she'll stay there until you see her, even if she dies." I sighed, my patience wearing thin. "Have security escort her out." "We can't, sir." Mark's voice was strained. "She's a celebrity now, in a bad way. There's a pack of paparazzi camped outside. The second security touches her, the cameras will start flashing. If we drag her out, tomorrow's headline will be Hayes Corp. Violently ejects disgraced former fiancée. I got it. She was using public opinion to force my hand. Smart, but not smart enough. Fine. Send her to my house. Sir, you're really going to see her. What's the alternative? Let her become a permanent lobby decoration. On it. 30 minutes later, our doorbell rang. Claire went to answer it. Standing on our doorstep was a gaunt and disheveled Ashley Vance. She froze when she saw Claire, and then her eyes filled with a venomous mix of jealousy and hatred. "Claire Sterling, you traitor," she shrieked. "You stole my man. How dare you show your face to me?" Claire took a step back, her face pale, but she found her courage. "Ashley, you're the one who gave Connor up. I didn't steal anything." "You're lying." I got up from the sofa, walked to the door, and gently pulled Claire behind me. "If you have something to say, say it. But don't you dare cause a scene at my home," I said, my voice ice cold. When Ashley saw me, her expression shifted, becoming a complex storm of regret, bitterness, and something that looked like pleading. "Connor," she said, her voice hoarse, her eyes red-rimmed. "I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, can you forgive me? Can we start over?" She reached out to grab my arm. I moved aside, letting her hand fall through empty air. "Ms. Vance, you can eat whatever you want, but you should watch what you say. My wife is standing right here. Please have some self-respect." "Wife?" Ashley laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Her? What has she done to you? What spell has she put you under? Wake up, Connor. She is nothing. She could never deserve you. Only I, Ashley Vance, am worthy of standing by your side. I looked at her, at this delusional, broken woman, and I almost pitied her. Almost. Worthy? That's not for you to decide, I said calmly. In my world, there is only one person for me, and that is my wife, Claire. As for you, Ms. Vance, you're not worthy of shining her shoes. That sentence was a knife. It plunged straight into Ashley's heart. The color drained from her face, and she staggered, nearly falling. What? What did you say? I said. I enunciated each word, my voice low but sharp as ice, that you should take your true love and get out of my sight, and stay out. Forever. Without another look at her, I closed the door. From outside, we could hear Ashley's broken sobs and furious curses. I ignored them completely. Claire looked up at me with worried eyes. Was that too cruel? Being kind to your enemies is being cruel to yourself, I said, pulling her into a hug. And I want you to remember this. From now on, no one gets to bully you. Ever. I won't allow it. She burrowed into my chest and nodded firmly. Some people, once you lose them, are gone for good. And some people, once you find them, are yours for a lifetime. ####, Chapter 9. Getting rid of Ashley didn't mean the drama was over. I knew it wasn't. A desperate person will do desperate things. Sure enough, a few days later, a massive story broke online. A post titled, "The Crestwood Tatler Presents, The Ugly Truth, A Scorned Lover's Revenge and the Fall of an Innocent Girl," went viral across every social media platform. In the post, an anonymous author spun a heart-wrenching tale of tragic love. The heroes of the story were a brilliant, down-on-his-luck genius, Leo, and a brave, noble heiress who gave up everything for love, Ashley. And I, of course, was cast as the villain, a petty, vindictive simp twisted by rejection. The post painted me as a monster who, after being jilted, used his family's immense power to crush Ashley and her true love, driving them to the brink of ruin. But the most vicious part was how they dragged Claire into it. The story claimed she was a gold-digging social climber who betrayed her best friend, saw an opportunity, and used her feminine wiles to seduce me and claw her way into the Hayes family. It was written with such overwrought emotion, and it even included evidence. There were screenshots of the sappy, desperate texts I'd sent Ashley back when I was still the simp. There were also grainy, long-lens photos of Claire and me in a secret meeting the day before the wedding, which was actually when she came to warn me Ashley was planning to run. The internet, predictably, lost its mind. In an instant, Claire and I were public enemy number one. The comment sections were a cesspool of hatred from people who had no idea what was really going on. OMG, this Connor Hayes guy is actual scum. If you can't have her, you destroy her? Pathetic. Ashley and Leo are so tragic. This is like a modern-day Romeo and Juliet. That Claire girl is the worst of them all, a backstabbing, two-faced snake. My phone was blowing up with calls from our PR department, asking for instructions. My father was pacing a hole in his carpet, demanding to know if we should hold a press conference. I silenced my phone and turned it off. Then I looked across the room at Claire. She was sitting on the sofa, her face pale, silently scrolling through the comments on her own phone. Her head was down, but I could see that her knuckles were white from gripping the device so tightly. "Stop reading that," I said, walking over and gently taking the phone from her hand. "Connor." She looked up, her eyes red. "How can they say those things about us? They don't know anything." "Because they're idiots," I said, pulling her into my arms and stroking her back. "And we don't listen to idiots." "But I'm scared." Her voice was muffled against my chest. "I'm scared this will hurt you and your family's reputation." My heart melted. Even now, this sweet, silly girl was worried about me. "Don't be," I said, tilting her face up to look at me. "This is nothing. A little online noise can't hurt me. Your husband is tougher than that. All I need is for you to trust me. That's enough." She looked into my eyes, and I saw the fear in them slowly recede, replaced by a steady resolve. "I trust you," she nodded firmly. "I will always trust you." "Good girl," I said, giving her a quick, reassuring kiss. After she had calmed down, I stepped out onto the balcony and called Mark. "Sir, the narrative online is spinning out of control," he said, his voice frantic. "Relax, Mark," I replied, my own voice calm. "I want IT to trace the IP address of the original post. I want a location in 5 minutes. Also, draft a defamation lawsuit against the anonymous author. And contact every major news outlet. Tell them I'm going live tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock sharp. Going live. Mark was stunned. Sir, you going to respond personally? Respond. I chuckled. No, Mark. I'm going to give the entire country a front row seat to a public execution. Ashley, Leo, you thought you could hide behind a keyboard and get away with it? The game is just getting started. Hashtag chapter 10. The next morning at 10 o'clock, I started a live stream from my personal social media account. The title was simple. Let's talk. Instantly, millions of viewers flooded the stream. The chat was scrolling so fast, it was an unreadable blur. Front row seat for the drama. Here we go. Let's see how this scumbag tries to spin this. Where's the snake, Claire? Too scared to show her face. I sat in a leather chair in my study, a wall of books behind me. I ignored the chat and offered a calm smile to the camera. Good morning, everyone. I'm Connor Hayes. I know you're all here today, expecting an explanation. But before I give you one, I'd like to show you all a short video. With that, I snapped my fingers. The screen split, and a high-definition security camera feed began to play. The location was a quiet corner of a coffee shop. The subjects were Ashley Vance and Leo Roth. The timestamp was from the day before the slanderous article was posted. In the video, Ashley slides a debit card across the table to Leo. There's $500,000 on this, she says. Find a good writer. I want you to polish our story and get it posted everywhere online. Make us sound as tragic as possible, and make Connor sound as evil as you can. Leo takes the card, but hesitates. Ashley, I don't know about this. Connor, he what? Ashley's expression turns ugly, her features twisting with rage. He ruined us. All I'm doing is ruining his reputation in return. That's merciful. Leo, this is our last chance. If we can win the public over to our side, we can turn this whole thing around. After a moment, Leo is convinced. He nods and pockets the card. The video ended. For a full second, the live stream was utterly silent. And then the chat exploded. Holy yes. The plot twist. So they hired someone to write that sob story themselves? It was all fake. OMG Ashley's face when she was talking. That's not an innocent girl. That's a villain. I take back everything I said yesterday. I'm the idiot. I watched the tidal wave of comments, a slow smile spreading across my face. All right, everyone, you've seen the video, I said, my face reappearing on screen. Now, let me address your main questions. First, did I retaliate against Ashley and Leo because I was rejected? The answer is no. Apex Industries sued them because they embezzled $50 million. That's commercial fraud. It's a crime. I was simply being a law-abiding citizen and doing what anyone in my position should have. Second, regarding my wife, Claire Sterling. The post claimed she betrayed her best friend and seduced me. That is a complete and utter lie. The truth is, on my wedding day, when the entire world was laughing at me, she was the only person who offered me a shred of dignity. At my absolute lowest point, she chose to stand by my side without a moment's hesitation. This kind, brave, wonderful woman was attacked with the most vicious words imaginable by thousands of you. And I have to ask those of you who slandered her, don't you feel even a little bit ashamed? My voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. The sentiment in the chat had completely reversed. Mr. Hayes, I am so sorry. I was wrong. Claire, please forgive us. We were all fooled. Ashley and Leo need to be run out of town. Frauds. And finally, I said, picking up a thick legal document from my desk and holding it up to the camera, this is the lawsuit my attorneys have filed against the publisher of that article, as well as every single social media account and blog that spread these defamatory lies. The internet is not above the law. Everyone who hides behind a keyboard will be held responsible for their words. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time. I ended the live stream. The world went quiet. I turned and saw Claire standing in the doorway of the study, her eyes red, watching me. I opened my arms. She ran into them, holding me tight, and started to cry. But this time, they were tears of relief. "So it's all over now," I whispered, stroking her back. "Connor, you're amazing," she mumbled into my chest. "You're just now figuring that out?" Hum. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. I knew this ridiculous drama was finally coming to a close, and our story was just beginning. Hashtag chapter 11. My live stream was a bombshell that detonated over the city of Crestwood. Ashley and Leo became social pariahs overnight. Their self-produced melodrama was now the internet's biggest joke. The stock for Vance Industries went into a nosedive, and they soon received a delisting warning from the stock exchange. Leo was officially investigated by the police for commercial fraud and intellectual property theft. I heard that when they arrested him, he was screaming, "It was Ashley's idea. She made me do it." Their fairy tale romance, once the envy of the city, ended in a pathetic display of backstabbing and blame. Ashley's fate was even worse. She was facing bankruptcy and crushing debt, but now she also had to contend with the full, quiet wrath of the Sterling family. Dr. and Mrs. Sterling may have been academics, but they weren't pushovers. Seeing their beloved daughter slandered so publicly had awakened a protective instinct they rarely showed. They leveraged their extensive network of contacts, and from both a legal and business standpoint, they began to systematically dismantle what was left of the Vance family's influence. It was only then that Ashley finally understood that her quiet, unassuming best friend was backed by a power she couldn't even comprehend, let alone fight. She had a complete breakdown. One afternoon, I received an unexpected call. It was from Ashley's father, Mr. Vance. His voice on the phone was old and tired, laced with desperation. "Connor, my boy." "No, Mr. Hayes. Please, I'm begging you. Spare the Vance family. Spare Ashley. She knows she was wrong." "Mr. Vance, you're talking to the wrong person," I said, my tone neutral. I never had any intention of going after anyone. Everything that's happened to her, she brought upon herself. I know it was her fault." His voice cracked with a sob. "But if you'll just show some mercy, I'm willing to sign over all my remaining shares in the company to you. For free. Just leave her with something. A way to live." I was silent for a moment. "Mr. Vance, do you know that on my wedding day, my father nearly had a heart attack from the stress and humiliation? In your eyes, was my dignity, my family's reputation, completely worthless? And now that your daughter has hit rock bottom, you're asking me to give her a way out? Why should I?" My questions were met with stunned silence. Finally, I hung up. I'm no saint. Why should I forgive the people who tried to destroy my family and the woman I love? When I put down the phone, I saw Claire standing behind me, watching me with a complex look in her eyes. "Am I being too cold?" I asked. She shook her head, came over, and wrapped her arms around me from behind. "No," she said, resting her cheek against my back. "You're just protecting us. I know that." I reached back and squeezed her hand, a warmth spreading through my chest. To have someone who understands you this completely, it's everything. Come on, I'm taking you somewhere. I drove us to a spot on a mountain overlooking the city. Tucked away at the peak was a private restaurant, elegant and serene, designed in a classic craftsman style. It was one of my secret spots. The chef was a culinary master I'd lured out of retirement with an obscene amount of money, and he specialized in exquisite, old-world fine dining. We sat at a table by the window, with a panoramic view of Crestwood's glittering skyline. "Wow, it's beautiful up here," Claire said, her eyes reflecting the city lights like stars. "Anytime you want to come, I'll bring you." The food arrived, course after incredible course. The chef also sent out a bottle of vintage Bordeaux he'd been saving. "Try this," I said, pouring her a small glass. She took a sip and her nose crinkled. "It's strong. It's a slow burn," I smiled. We ate and talked, the atmosphere warm and intimate. After a couple of glasses of wine, Claire's cheeks were flushed a lovely shade of pink, and her eyes were soft and dreamy. She rested her chin in her hand, watching me, and then giggled for no reason. "Connor, you know what? I feel like I'm in a dream." "Oh, I never, ever thought I'd be here, having dinner with you. I used to just watch you from a distance. I saw you happy because of Ashley, sad because of Ashley, and I always thought, if only he would just look at me one day." "Well, I'm looking now," I said, taking her hand. "And from now on, you're the only one I'll ever see." Her eyes welled up again. "Connor, you're so good to me," she murmured. "So, does that mean you love me?" I leaned in, my voice low. She looked at me, her hazy eyes filled with a deep, unwavering affection. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she leaned forward and kissed me. Her lips tasted of rich wine and her own unique sweetness. Outside the window, A million city lights twinkled. Inside, right here with me, was my entire world. After returning from the mountain, our life finally, truly began. With Ashley and Leo out of the picture, our days were quiet, peaceful, and filled with a simple sweetness. I remained firmly committed to my life's philosophy of coasting. My workday consisted of reading the reports Mark sent over and replying with one of three phrases: noted, looks fine, or keep it up. The rest of my time was dedicated entirely to my wife. We adopted 2 cats. Mine was a regal ragdoll I named 5 Mil in honor of the necklace. Hers was a gentle British shorthair she named Lucky. The cats were just as attached to each other as we were. 5 Mil was aloof, but I'd often catch him secretly curling his body around Lucky while she slept. Claire called it being tsundere. I called it being a softie. Claire didn't stay idle, either. She picked up her paintbrushes again and converted a sun-filled spare room into a small art studio. She was mesmerizing when she painted. The sunlight would stream in, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, and she would look like a figure from a masterpiece herself. My favorite thing to do was pull up a chair and just sit there, quietly watching her work. I could do it for an entire afternoon. One day, she was painting a field of sunflowers. Watching her, an idea popped into my head. "Claire, let's go on a trip." "A trip?" She paused, brush in hand, surprised. "Yeah," I nodded. "A real honeymoon. Just the 2 of us." Her eyes lit up. "Okay, where should we go?" I thought for a moment. "Wherever you want." She propped her chin on her hand, thinking seriously. "I want to see the ocean," she finally said. "The kind that's so blue you can't tell where the water ends and the sky begins." "Done. We'll go see the ocean." I had Mark book 2 first-class tickets to the Maldives and reserve a private island for our stay. Before we left, my father called me. "You brat, running off again? What about the company?" "Dad, Mark and the team have it handled. The company is doing great," I said lazily. "This is my honeymoon. It's important." "You..." He sputtered, but then his tone softened. All right. That girl is a keeper. You treat her right. And while you're at it, hurry up and give me a grandchild." He hung up before I could reply. I stared at my phone, half amused, half exasperated. A grandchild? That was one thing that was out of my hands. On the private jet to the Maldives, Claire was as excited as a little kid, constantly pointing out cloud formations and taking selfies with me. "Connor, look. That cloud looks like cotton candy." "It does." "Connor, let's take another picture." Okay. Seeing her radiant smile filled me with a profound sense of peace. This is what it felt like to love someone. You just wanted to make them happy. You wanted to give them everything beautiful in the world. You realized that their smile was all it took to light up your entire universe. We arrived in the Maldives and checked into our overwater bungalow. The moment we opened the doors, we were greeted by an endless expanse of turquoise water and clear blue sky. Claire let out a whoop of joy, kicked off her shoes, and ran onto the white sand beach, her dress billowing behind her like the wings of a butterfly. I stood on the deck, watching her, an unconscious smile on my face. For the next few weeks, it felt like we were the only 2 people in the world. During the day, we'd go snorkeling, swimming among vibrant coral reefs and schools of tropical fish. In the evenings, we'd walk hand in hand along the beach, watching the spectacular sunsets paint the sky in fiery shades of orange and pink. At night, we'd lie on the sand and gaze up at the blanket of stars. "Connor," she whispered, snuggled against my side, pointing at the sky. "Do you think people can see those same stars from home?" "They can. Isn't that amazing? We're so far away, but we're all under the same sky." "It is. We're so lucky," she said, turning her head to look at me, her eyes shining brighter than any star above us. "We get to be together every single day." I leaned down and kissed her. The gentle sea breeze, the soft rhythm of the waves. This was eternity. After 2 blissful weeks in the Maldives, we reluctantly returned to Crestwood. Mark was waiting for us at the airport. "Welcome back, sir, Mrs. Hayes," he said, taking our luggage. "Anything blow up while I was gone?" I asked casually. "Business as usual," Mark reported. Although, the Vance family officially declared bankruptcy. Ashley Vance has disappeared. The rumor is she had a complete mental breakdown and was checked into a private care facility. I paused for a half step, then kept walking. Noted, I wasn't surprised. That outcome had been inevitable. She had aimed for the stars, but was destined for the fall. Her tragedy was sealed the moment she made her choice at the altar. When we got home, our two cats ambushed us, rubbing against our legs and purring up a storm. Claire scooped Lucky into her arms, her face breaking into a wide smile. "It's good to be home," she said. I couldn't agree more. There's no place like it, especially when your home is filled with the people and pets you love. Life fell back into its comfortable rhythm. I coasted, Claire painted, and together we cuddled cats, watched movies, and cooked. It was a simple life. A perfect life. One afternoon, while Claire was painting, she suddenly felt nauseous and gagged a few times. I shot up from my chair. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said, waving a hand, though her face was a little pale. "Just a bit queasy. I think I ate something that didn't agree with me yesterday." I wasn't convinced. I insisted on taking her to the hospital for a checkup. We went through the whole process: registration, waiting, a battery of tests. As we waited for the results, I was more nervous than she was, my palms sweating. Finally, a doctor came out with a chart. "Mr. Connor Hayes?" "That's me," I said, standing up immediately. The doctor looked from me to Claire, and a warm smile spread across his face. "Congratulations. Mrs. Hayes is pregnant. About 6 weeks along." Boom. My brain went completely blank. Pregnant? I was going to be a father? I just stood there, stunned into silence, unable to process the words. Claire was equally shocked. She instinctively placed a hand on her stomach, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Doctor, are you sure?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Positive," the doctor beamed. "The ultrasound shows a healthy gestational sac. Congratulations, you're going to be parents." I was still in a daze when we left the hospital. I hovered around Claire like a nervous mother hen, walking so slowly it was almost comical. "Careful on the curb. Are you thirsty? Do you want some water? Are you tired? We should take a cab." Claire looked at my over-the-top antics and couldn't help but laugh. "Connor, you're being ridiculous. I'm not made of glass." "Doesn't matter," I said with utmost seriousness. "You are now a national treasure, top-level security detail, effective immediately." The first thing I did when we got home was call my father. He was silent on the other end of the line for a good 30 seconds. Then, a deafening, joyous roar erupted from the phone. "Ah ha ha ha. Yes. Wonderful. The Hayes family has an heir. Good job, son. You finally did something right." His excitement quickly morphed into frantic planning. "How is Claire feeling? Is she okay? Have you hired a nanny?" "No, nannies aren't reliable. I'll find one myself. And a nutritionist, and a maternity nurse. Only the best." Listening to his delirious rambling, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It looked like the Hayes household was about to enter a new era of chaos. After hanging up, I watched Claire as she sat on the sofa, gently stroking her still flat stomach, a look of soft wonder on her face. A feeling of profound, overwhelming happiness filled my chest. I walked over and knelt in front of her, placing my hand over hers. "Claire, thank you. Thank you for coming into my life. Thank you for giving me a home. Thank you for making my world complete." After Claire's pregnancy was announced, my status in the household plummeted. I used to be number one. Now, Claire was number one, the baby was number two, the two cats were tied for third, and I was dead last. My father, Robert Hayes, transformed into a full-blown grandpa-in-chief. He cleared his entire schedule to be on 24/7 Claire watch. One day, he'd show up with some exotic, nutrient-rich soup he'd cook himself. The next, he'd fly a nutrition expert from Switzerland. If Claire so much as frowned, he'd panic. "Claire, dear, are you feeling all right? Should I call the doctor? Claire, is there anything you're craving? Just tell your father-in-law. I'll have it made for you." I watched his fawning with amusement. "Dad, you were never this nice to me. You shot me a glare. Can you be compared to my grandchild? Go on, get out of the way. You're a distraction." I sighed. Right. I was just the genetic material provider. Claire's parents were just as ecstatic. Her mother moved in with us, under the pretext of taking care of her daughter. But it was really to compete with my father for the title of most doting grandparent-to-be. Our home became a daily battleground of affection. In the morning, my father would present a bowl of chicken soup. "Claire, drink this. It's good for you. her mother would immediately appear with a bowl of fish soup. "Robert, that's far too greasy for a pregnant woman. Claire, drink this. It's much more nutritious." The two of them would then argue for 10 minutes about the nutritional value of their respective soups. I was caught in the middle, developing a permanent headache. Claire, on the other hand, was living her best life, happily being pampered and fed by both sides. Her face grew rounder and glowed with health. She'd lean against me, munching on an apple my father had peeled, while sipping a fresh-pressed juice from her mother, her eyes closed in contentment. "Connor, I feel like a queen." "You are a queen," I said, gently pinching her now cherubic cheek. "My queen." In addition to the grandparents, we also gained 2 new family members, 2 golden retrievers. My father insisted that the baby would need playmates when he grew up. This, of course, presented a direct threat to the status of 5 Mil and Lucky. The 2 cats and 2 dogs engaged in a daily, dramatic struggle for attention and affection. 5 Mil, with his aloof demeanor and superior combat skills, remained the undisputed king of the household pets. Lucky, the master of cuteness, charmed her way into everyone's hearts. The 2 Goldens were happy-go-lucky goofballs who were constantly getting bullied by 5 Mil, but seemed to enjoy it. Our home, once a quiet mansion, was now filled with a chaotic, bustling, and beautiful warmth, all centered around the tiny life that was on its way. Every day, I looked at this wonderful, crazy circus and felt a deep sense of peace. This was the life I had always wanted. A wife, a family, cats and dogs, laughter and love. One night, after Claire had fallen asleep, I stood alone on the balcony. Looking up at the moon, I thought about my past life, about the corporate drone who rode the crowded subway every day, ate instant noodles for dinner, and sold his soul for a meager salary. If he could see me now, he would think it was all a dream. I took out my phone and called Mark. "Sir, it's late. Is everything all right? I need you to do something for me," I said. "I want to establish a charitable foundation under the company's name. It will focus on providing financial aid to families who have been devastated by unexpected accidents." Mark was quiet for a moment. "Of course, sir. As for the name," I thought for a second. "Let's call it the Hope Foundation. I don't know how many people there are in the world like my former self, struggling just to survive. I can't change the world, but I can at the very least offer a little bit of hope, just like the light Claire brought into my life when I needed it most." Hashtag chapter 15. 10 months later, on a beautiful, sunny afternoon, Claire gave birth to a healthy baby boy, 7 pounds, 8 ounces with a strong set of lungs. My father and my father-in-law nearly came to blows over what to name him. One wanted to name him Connor Jr. The other insisted on Julian. In the end, it was Claire who made the final decision. We named him Noah. Noah's arrival turned our already lively home into a planet revolving around a single, tiny sun. I, his actual father, had to get in line just to hold him. But I didn't mind, because my queen, finally, was all mine again. In the maternity suite, Claire recovered beautifully, her cheeks rosy with health. I spent every day with her, reading to her, talking with her. "Connor," she said one day, looking at our sleeping son in the bassinet, "I still feel like this is all a dream." "Me too," I said, taking her hand. "It's a beautiful dream I never want to wake up from." We looked at each other and smiled. Nothing more needed to be said. 1 year later, Noah was now walking, toddling around the house like an adorable little penguin. He had inherited the best of both of us and was a ridiculously cute child who charmed everyone he met. He was also the undisputed little king of the Hayes and Sterling clans. It was a perfect Sunday afternoon. We were having a picnic on the sprawling lawn of our estate. My father and father-in-law were a short distance away, arguing over whose turn it was to play Candyland with their grandson. My mother-in-law was taking pictures of Noah, cooing, "Look at Grandma, sweetie." The 2 golden retrievers were chasing a frisbee across the grass. 5 Mil and Lucky were lounging regally on the picnic blanket, soaking up the sun. Claire leaned her head on my shoulder as we watched the beautiful, chaotic scene before us. "Connor, I love you. I love you too." I leaned down and kissed her. From across the lawn, I heard my father's indignant yell. "Connor, you brat, what are you doing in broad daylight? You'll give your son ideas." I just smiled and deepened a kiss. Sunlight, Green grass, my wife, my family, our pets, our child. This, I thought, was what happiness looked like. To travel into this story, to arrive in this world, to find you. It was the greatest luck of my life.